If I told you that energy healing is based in physics, not mysticism, would you hear me out? What if the reason that we think it's woo is because we were never taught the physics behind it? And what if by the end of this video, you never called it woo again? We believe every day in all kinds of invisible frequencies and fields that we can't see, and most of us don't understand. But yet we readily accept Wi-Fi in order to get internet, Bluetooth to connect to devices. We even believe in ultrasound, x-rays, and all kinds of medical devices. We believe in frequencies for communications. But yet somehow, when we think about this applying to our own human biofield, we find it hard to believe and we call it woo. Stay with me because by the end of this video, you'll understand not only the physics behind it, but you won't ever use the word woo again. I'm going to explain this in a way that is grounded, centered, and practical. And by the end, this shift is going to change everything that you think is possible about healing. Our bodies are electric. Our heart runs on electricity. Our brain runs on electrical impulses. That's not spiritual, that's measurable. Let's think about the ways in which we use this in the medical industry. Your heart is beating irregularly. You feel like you have chest pain, something's wrong. You go to the hospital and you get an ECG, an electrocardiogram. This is a device placed on the heart to measure the electrical impulse of the heart, the beats, the difference between one beat to the next, the rhythm of your heart. Measurable. You can also go get an EEG, an electroencephalogram. So this is going to measure the brain waves and the frequencies associated with them. And we know this is well documented that there are many different brainwave frequencies. Beta, which we're likely in right now as we're focusing, we're concentrating, learning something. We can move into an alpha state. An alpha is a deeper focus. Maybe you're in flow state now. Maybe you're very concentrated on just one task. A little less energy expenditure. Maybe you're in theta wave. This is creativity. This is a bit of self-hypnosis. This is in daydreaming state. Or maybe we're in delta. Now we're deep sleeping and our brain waves slow down even further. Also, there's a lot of study on the gamma wave, and a lot of avid meditators are trying to get into the gamma state. Again, this is very measurable and very actionable, well documented. Also, you can have nerve impulses. So the nerve potential from one to the next, as one nerve fires through the synaptic connections, it moves to the next nerve, and this acts as an electrical grid throughout your body, much like the wiring in your house allows you to turn the lights on. Your nervous system allows you to do all of the functions in your body, digest your food, to think, to take action by contracting the muscles in the body. Every autonomic and automatic systems in the body are run by this electrical communication. Also, we can take it right down to the cell. Every cell in your body has a voltage, and we can use devices to charge this voltage. So if you are low on energy, if you're in a disease state, we have all kinds of devices. We can use pulse magnetic field therapy, which charges the voltage of the cells with negative ions. We have microcurrents, which give specific frequencies back into the body as communication. Or maybe it's photobiomodulation, which is using the information of light. Sound healing also has the capacity to do this, to bring in new electricity, new magnetism, photons, phonons, all of these little packages of communication that go through the electrical grid of your body. So this is measurable, and this takes us out of the field of woo and back into biology in the body. And this is where things get really interesting. Everything operates in frequency. Sound is frequency. Light is frequency. Even matter at its core is just vibration. Different frequencies create different matter, and they also interact with matter differently. Every single object has a different frequency. A flower has a different frequency signature than a tree, than a dog, to a person. Even within our own bodies, every single cell, organ has a different frequency. This is documented and used in practical applications like bioresonance, where we can scan the voice or the energy field by placing an instrument of measurement near the body, and that reads the frequencies which the biofield is emitting to create and generate a report based on our electrical health. And so this happens through this idea that every single thing has a frequency. And to take this into the realm of what's believable to most people, think about when we tune a radio. What are we doing when we pick a channel on the TV? We are tuning into a specific frequency to pick up between a receiver and an antenna. But why can't that be the same between one person to another, that we have an ability for our nervous systems to regulate as we hug each other, or to feel the energy of somebody walking through the door that maybe's had a bad day and you instantly get the feeling that something's not right? What about the very fact that when they teach private investigators who are following somebody to never look at their back of their head or their back, because people will often turn around and look and know somebody's looking at them. They're trained to look at their feet instead. This tells you again about how everything is operating at this frequency. And at the very basic level, there is no such thing as matter. So, I mean, Tesla tells us if we want to understand the universe to think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. Whenever we're touching two things together, all we're really feeling is the repulsion of two magnetic fields touching each other. And that magnetic field is being created by our cells, the the electrons, the protons, and the parts of our cells that are spinning and moving. They're coming in and out of existence as they are creating potentials and new options and new opportunities. And we know this through the slit experiments, in which when they put an experiment of light through two different slits, that light will behave like a wave, which is potential still, and only collapse into particles with the introduction of an observer or a measuring tool. And so this tells us again that their frequencies are so important, because that experiment tells us that even our thought is a frequency. And the intention of measuring or of speaking or of viewing something collapses other potentials. And this is now our mind and our frequency interacting with things around us. And this is again, sound also becomes so important. We think about how we tune instruments. Well, our body operates much like an instrument as well. Every time our heart beats, every contraction that we talked about when we have an ECG or our heart rate variability and devices we can monitor, every time it's beating in the chamber, anything that's there is being imprinted with sound from our heart, and that is moving through the rest of our body, through our vascular system, and it is communicating those little packages of phonons, the smallest package of sound information, into the rest of the body, and it is finding all of the tubulars or empty spaces, the hollow places that store that information for future reference, much like the hollow space of a guitar, the piano, or a drum become like a resonance or an amplifier for the sound. So the body responds always to rhythm and to information and to coherence. And we know this in sound healing, that there are many frequencies which become very therapeutic. One of my favorite is 432 hertz and 528. But we have the solfeggio frequencies. 174 is very popular for treating cells and physical matter in the body. And all of these frequencies are available and easy to access, and they create coherence in the body. So frequency changes structure. Frequencies affecting the body. This is not mysticism, this is measurable science. Frequency changing our body is not magical. It's resonance. It's coherence. And here is the part that most people never learn. Why is energy medicine labeled as woo? Why does it always get dismissed? Maybe it's because we were only ever taught to see things as physical.
Medicine has very much developed around biology, chemistry, and mechanisms. And that is useful because we are a physical body and we do need sunlight, water, nutrition, and movement. And definitely when we have an injury, we need a certain amount of time to heal the physical body. But the error here is that we only ever stop at the biochemistry of the body. And we never take a step back and ask another question. What's powering the biochemistry of the body? And this is when we get into another layer of the energy body. And it starts to be a little bit harder to quantify and to really understand because we don't have an easy way to measure that. It's very difficult to show where the organ or the system that creates a chakra, for example, or what about the meridians? We don't have a way to do imaging or to test or to quantify it. But does that make it not real? We definitely feel the energy body. We can definitely tell when we're depleted, when we have low energy. And for any of those who have experienced any energy modalities, like acupuncture, you can feel the very real physical effects. So we're very aware and we can feel the energy body even if we don't have a way to measure it. Now, if you want to go up even higher than the biochemistry or even the electrical nature of the body, what's above that even? What causes energy to leak out of the body when we have low energy? This is where we start to get into information medicine. And now it's not so much about just how strong is the energy in the body, but what is the signal? What messages are being communicated? Now we need to start thinking about emotions. We need to start thinking about our belief systems and our thought loops. And now we're getting into the architect, the curator of the energy field. And this is a higher level. And this is where real, true healing comes. But again, it takes us into that woo place because do we naturally have to then decide what governs that? Is there a quantum field, as quantum science will tell us, a unified field where all potential is and where our original source comes from? Is it a soul, as the mysticisms would tell us, or as religion would say, that we have a spirit? This is why I find that there's hard time between science and the woo, because there is a bit of a gap there. But I want to go back and think about what other things did we not understand and we believed weren't real until we had technology to measure them. I mean, there was a time when we didn't understand what bacteria was, what virus was, what germs were. We couldn't see things until we had a telescope to measure them or a microscope to go down, telescope to go out further into the galaxies. But now that we have a way to measure and quantify, we understand the very real nature of those things that were unreachable before, that blew our minds that that could be a real thing. But now with new technology, we're able to measure those things. So why would that not apply then into this realm of energy medicine as we get more refined as humans? But we need to stay curious and we need to stay open so that we can imagine where we're going to be going. History has shown us that what sounds ridiculous today can become very true tomorrow. So with that in mind, let's go into the next revelation. And this is where we're going to get into the paradigm shift that's required. What if healing wasn't about overcoming, but more about becoming who we really are? What if we're not meant to fight against our body or suppress the signals of the body or even to remove parts of the bodies? What if we are supposed to be improving the coherence and the information? And so this is when we will naturally need to look at coherence versus chaos in our nervous system. When our nervous system is heightened and on vigilance all the time, perhaps because we've had trauma in the past, we are stuck in a rumination or thought loop, we have emotions in the body that we haven't worked through and processed. Either way, our nervous system is always active. And this can also come up not even because we had a big traumatic event in our life. What if it's just from the low level anxiety in which we live in all of the time? And this can just be from traffic, from bills, from keeping up with the Joneses, because we have this fear of missing out from social media, this constant news cycle, which is always keeping us in the sense that we're not safe and that the world isn't good and that we're not enough. And when we're always feeling this way, our mind and our heart are not coherent. And when they're not coherent, they're going to beat irregularly in the heart, and that's going to send distress signals out to the rest of the body. And when that's happening, that's going to create downstream of that biochemistry soup of stress hormones. We'll have norepinephrine, adrenaline, cortisol, and these are not the chemistry in the body which is conducive to healing, well-being, homeostasis, and definitely not to repair. So what we really want to be doing is figuring out how to release the emotions out and through the body, how to stop those negative loops. And, meditation is a beautiful way to do this. Practicing yoga, qigong, mindfulness practices that are just turning you inside. And this allows you to regulate the nervous system. And breath is a powerful way as well in somatic practices, because it is a two-way street. Not only when we get scared, we get ill, we have pain, injury, that makes us hold our breath. And as we have a physiological stress response in the body, that sends signals up into our brain to say, oh my goodness, something is going on. And then we get into that loop. It can also go the other way, though, where our mind is thinking about something in the future that we're worrying about, fearful about, worrying about decisions we've made in the past, everything taking us out of the present moment, which for the most part is generally safe. And when that happens, then now our mind is telling the body that we're stressed out, and the body will start to have real physiological responses. But this two-way communication can work to our advantage as well. Because when we do practices like yoga or qigong or even walking in nature, that tells the body to release. The fascia releases, the muscles, tension lets go, the body starts to feel safe. And as it does that, and it takes a bigger diaphragmatic breath, that sends signals up to the brain to say, okay, everything is well now. It can go the other way too, where our mind can hear the sounds of nature, of singing bowls, of our favorite song, of the birds, of the leaves rustling, fireplace crackling. And those sounds can go back into the body to tell the body, we are safe, everything is okay, you can calm down. That also comes in the thoughts that we're thinking, because our thoughts are also going to inform our breath on how to breathe, whether we're holding and gripping, or whether we're fearful, or whether we're relaxed and we're just letting go. And so when we start to think of this new paradigm shift, we start to see that all the information, whether it's external coming into us or whether it's internally generated and moving outwards, is affecting the bioelectrical grid, the aura, the biofield, whatever that term is you want to call this space around us that's animating us. It's communicating. So do we want to always have dissonant frequencies of traffic sounds and fighting, or news in the background, Wi-Fi, 5G towers messing up with our internal coherence? Or do we want to replace that with maybe soft music, or with kind words, or with a comedy, perhaps something a little lighter on the psyche? And then also thinking about what's coming from the inside out. How are we speaking to ourselves? How are we speaking to other people? What kinds of thoughts are we thinking? How are we framing the world in which we live in? Because how we frame things is going to determine the types of thoughts we have, which will create the emotion. And the emotions then create the chemistry. So this is again going from that architecture at the top, the blueprint, the information field, into the energy system, which is then communicating down to the rest of the body. So this is a total paradigm shift, because we're not just thinking only about things, for most people thinking that they live in effect, where the world does something to them and that causes an effect on them. This is coming to be co-creators of reality, where we're going to cause the things that we want in the world. And that internal becoming the cause can even apply to external scenarios in your life. Yes, we can't stop whether it's a snowstorm today. Yes, we can't stop whether there's inflation or there's, governmental upset somewhere in the world. Those external things, yes, they're coming from the outside, but how we frame it, what we make as meaning out of it, The context that we give it matters greatly, and that is always an inside job. So in this paradigm shift, we're going to be thinking about all of these things now as energy. And that paradigm shift is going to be really profound, and it's going to change the way that you view yourself, your environment, and the very fabric of nature and reality. So why does this matter? This wasn't about trying to prove anything or convince anybody of anything. This was to provide you with agency, with sovereignty, for you to have the ability to take responsibility for your own energetic blueprint and how you interact with the rest of the world. Because your environment matters. What signals are coming in? Your biology matters. Your thoughts matter. Your stress response, they matter. And as we move into this paradigm shift of energy healing, we learn that all things are now possible from the inside out, and we are the creators of our reality, and we have agency to change things in the world around us, starting with our internal reality. If this resonated with you, put the word physics below to join the community. And if you're ready to take this information into practical experience, feel free to join the Energy Healing Circle at Energy Over Matter. We meet on the second Wednesday via Zoom of every month, and there we do all things energy medicine. We talk about spiritual topics. We talk about sound healing. We practice sound healing and meditation, and we just hold space for each other, for healing, and for the potential of what's possible for all of us. So if you found this helpful and insightful, please share, please stay curious, and please know that you are not broken and that healing is not only yours, it is inevitable as long as you create the right energetic and internal environment. See you in the next exploration. If this resonated, subscribe to Energy Over Matter for more energy medicine, nervous system regulation, and healing. You'll also find guided meditations and full episodes of Mind Over MS. Thanks for being here. Have a blessed day and a blessed life. Namaste.